गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी
यशोदानन्दन
ब्रजनन्दन यशोदानन्दन ब्रजजनरञ्जन यमुनातीरा वनचारी यमुनातीरा वनचारी
जय राधा
माधव कुंज बिहारी
गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी
वरधारी
यशोदानन्दन
ब्रजजनन्दन
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Jayo Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada. All glories to our teacher, Srila Prabhupada. In a go of 1, 2, 3, let's say Jai Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Jai.
Thank you so much for participating in such a beautiful bhajan. Okay, so let's begin. Maybe the slides can be made public now. So I request maybe anybody could voluntarily help out in recapitulating what we discussed yesterday. Some points. Anybody, please volunteer.
We discussed about the three ways, that is the three ways of Gyan Prapti, and we discussed about the 4 defects, and we also discussed about the Vedic knowledge, that is Shruti and Smriti, and we also discussed that there are how many slokas are there.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mataji, for contributing. Okay, so we had a very interesting discussion yesterday about how our senses are limited, how we have 4 defects, how irrespective of how much advanced this material education is, however, it's not complete. And the complete education is in the Shastras. The Shastras, millions of years before, said so many predictions, knew everything, which people, after so many years of hard work and desperate research, have come to being. So we discussed and we were fully convinced that, yes, indeed, this Sastric course that we have taken of studying Bhagavad-Gita, of relying upon Sastras, is indeed first class. Because the information here is said by the Supreme Lord, who is perfect, 100%, 10% perfect. So the knowledge that we are trying to acquire now is complete. After the sessions ended, one of the participants actually made a question or made a query, a very interesting query. We were reading education, a subject in bachelor's. So there was a very important point. It said that education, one of the aim of education is transformation of character. Whenever by any attempt, any educator does an attempt of educating a group of audiences and there is transformation of character, that is a symptom of success of an education system or an educator. Similarly, questioning is a symptom that this group wants to learn something. So after the session was over, even though everybody was convinced that this path is correct, yet still there was a student, there was a Mataji, Manisha Mataji, who said that, oh, what is this Vedic knowledge based on assumption? How is it possible? Who told God, or did God himself said? So she wanted to know the authority of Bhagavad Gita. So if anybody in the group or in the participant has Bhagavad Gita as it is, then they would see the word as it is. And they would ask this, they would have this question in their mind. Okay, we have so many Bhagavad Gita. Even the founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada, to the introduction of Bhagavad Gita, he writes there that many of my students' parents, they said that they had already read Bhagavad Gita, and there are innumerable amount of editions available in the world. But why to choose Bhagavad Gita as it is? It's a good question. It's a really interesting question. So, and the answer to this is very much available in page 34 of Bhagavad Gita as it is. What it is saying is that it's saying the word of God. God is saying to Arjuna, Evam parampara praptam imam rajarsayo viduhu, which means this knowledge, this knowledge that we are studying in Bhagavad Gita, this kind of knowledge which is complete, the Sastric knowledge or the Vedic knowledge, is basically coming from chain, coming from a teacher to a student, and then the teacher, then the student. So it's coming in chain. And if we start this chain was started and as confirmed in the second book of Kali Yuga, that is Srimad Bhagavatam, the first verse itself, there it is quoted, Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaya, which means that this wisdom has begun from Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord himself gave this education, gave this knowledge, and was received by the first living being. The first living being, the quiz, today's quiz question number 1. Who's the first created being? The answer to this is Brahma. Brahma was the first created living being. So to Brahma, this knowledge was given by Lord inside his heart, through his heart, or inside his heart. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaya. And from Brahma, then it was given to Narada. From Narada, Vyasadeva. Another question for the quiz, the literary incarnation, Vyasadeva. Yesterday we studied about Shruti and Smriti, right? And we said that Shruti means to hear. Smriti means when the sages hear, when they put it inside, when they internalize, when they apply, when they have realization, when they realize God, they compose. Because we said that the Kali Yuga is full of faults. And in the coming sessions, we will see what is the characteristics of Kali Yuga, like some symptoms of Kali Yuga. So one of the symptoms, let me open up now, is that the Kali Yuga people, they have lower life expectancy. Another, they are very forgetful. We cannot deny this fact. Among all the participants, we cannot deny the fact that we don't even remember what we ate 3 days back in our breakfast. We cannot remember. The recall, the immediate is very poor. The immediate memory, the recall memory is very poor because of this Kali Yuga. So that's why Vyasadeva, the literary incarnation, literary, which means he wrote for us so that we could read easily, so that it is kept, it is recorded, so that people, this forgetful people of Kali Yuga, can also take help of this Vedic science. So from Vyasadeva, it came to Madhavacharya. So that way, this disciplic chain is taking place to a point till Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. If you turn the page number 34 of Bhagavad Gita, you will see the whole chain. So it is authoritative, no assumption. It's not based on assumption. Directly from Krishna, then to the student, disciple. So this chain or this succession is known as disciplic succession. So that's why this states the authority of Bhagavad Gita, that it is not man-made. It is directly from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now another question comes. Okay, this is from the God. It's coming. I'm okay with it. But then they will ask, what about the others? They are also reading. They are also practicing. What about them? They all are fake. Then the answer to this is just like when we were studying in school, or before we actually got admitted to any school. What does a parent do? What do we do naturally? What do we do whenever we are planning to study in some kind of college? What is the planning that we make? Can Smita answer me this? Or
Hare
maybe,
Krishna Mataji. Hello.
yeah.
Hey,
Okay, the
Mataji, I
question,
cannot hear your questions. Can you please repeat it again?
Yes, surely. My question is, before you get admission to any college, do you just like that go to the college and get admission, or do you
No,
do some plan?
Mataji.
What do you do?
First of all, they taught us to give a entrance exam.
Yeah. Okay. After the entrance has
And
been done and you have to select a college, how do you select a college?
to depend upon the performance of the college, please.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Mataji. Very simple answer. We have to see whether that particular college is worthwhile studying or not, whether it's recognized or not. Nowadays, UGC registration, whether it's registered in the national boards or not, whether it is ISO registration, we see before we get admission, because we are spending, first and foremost thing, money. Second of all, it's our dream. We are actually encompassing very important things, so we check and then only we get admission. Similarly, there is plethora of Bhagavad Gita available in this world now. Each of them are becoming authors nowadays. Everybody's so talented that everybody's coming up with a copy of books. But whether those books and the contents of those books are reliable or authoritative, we have to check. So just like in material education, there is UGC. There are certain councils which basically takes the responsibility of checking whether this college is registered or not, whether to go for this college or not. Similarly, since now we are assuming to become students of the Sastras, the Vedic Institute, right? So in the Vedic Institute also, there are basically four registered university. Now, please take a pen and note down what are these four registered university. I'm saying, please write. The first is Sri Lakshmi. And the first university's name is Sri Lakshmi. I'll send a photo of this also. Need not worry, but right now you just write. The second is Brahma, the institute Brahma. And the third is Rudra. And the fourth is Kumara. The first is what? Sri Lakshmi. The second is what? Brahma. The third is what? Rudra. And the fourth is Kumaras. Four Kumaras. Okay. So these are the four authorized university. In Sanskrit, we call university as Sampradayas. Okay. So out of these four, the one that we belong to and the one from which we are reading and accessing the knowledge, we belong to the second class, that is Brahma. Brahma, Madhavacharya, Gaudiya, and since this is a university, so it's Sampradaya. So we belong to this university. Therefore, if anybody reads or studies under this four university and takes up the study of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, and so forth, is considered to be valid, registered, and to be accepted as authoritative source. So with that, we come to a conclusion that the sampradaya that we belong to is known as Brahma Madhavacharya Gaudiya Sampradaya. And now another very important thing. Okay, fine. Now we have Bhagavad Gita in our hand. We can read at home. We can excel ourselves. But the Shastras say that we cannot understand this. Just like a very good example, anybody here, Sunita, what is your dream? What do you want to become?
Yes, Mataji. Me?
Your aim professionally, what do you want to become?
Mataji, in materially, I want to become a lecturer in a university.
Okay, you want to become a teacher, a professional teacher.
Yes,
Yes.
Mataji.
Yes. So like Sunita Mataji wants to become a professional teacher, and she decides, okay, I want to be a professional teacher, and she gets all the books from across the globe, the best books for becoming a professional teacher, and she sits at home and she starts studying. Will she be able to become a professional teacher in comparison to the students who actually go to a university and learn from a teacher?
No, Mataji.
No, right? So, which means, irrespective of the fact that we have Bhagavad Gita, irrespective of the fact that we can read English and that we are really scholarly in our material education, however, it is said, the Shastras clearly said, there is a book known as Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, a very important book that we will also discuss in coming sessions. There it is said that we cannot understand the science. It's not easy to understand Lord or the science of who I am, what is God, what is this. All this science cannot be understood easily and it will not be revealed. He said, Atah Shri Krishna Namadi na bhavit priyam indriya sevanamukhe jivadav swayam eva spurati ataha. No one can understand this by this material knowledge and all of this thing. But he said, it will be revealed to the devotee. Just like, for example, we want to go and meet chief minister, right? We have a dream of meeting a chief minister. So I sit at home and I say, I want to meet chief minister, and I keep on chanting this name. That would be the most impractical thing to do. But the most practical thing to do would be basically, in order to reach to CM, I should know someone who's very close, who knows CM very well, so that I could know his schedule, first of all, to make a meeting, right? And I should be able to know, when can I meet CM? What kind of a personality is? How should I approach to him? So if our goal is to meet CM and we have some goal behind meeting CM, then we have to make sure that we have to reach to him through someone, through some medium. Now, there are many mediums. Like I can go and talk to, CM's wife also. But that's not legitimate. That's not something, that's not legal, right? It becomes little formidable. But the most safe method would be to reach to his personal assistant. Very simple. That would be, as I'm a citizen, I have every right to reach out to this particular position that is known as personal assistant, because he knows everything about the CM. So I have to make contact with the personal assistant and I have to request him, please, this is my condition. Please, I have to take shelter of that personality in order to reach to CM. Similarly, in Vedic Shastras also, if we really want to know who we are in reality, apart from just being human, if we want to know things above that, then we have to take shelter of a devotee. Who's this devotee? In coming chapters, in many, many chapters, in coming sessions, we'll see that there's a need of this devotee. This devotee is known as teacher, because this teacher or this devotee teaches us the science of soul, the science of supreme personality of Godhead, the science of the key to happiness. So that's why in 4.34 of Bhagavad Gita, it is said the science of acquisition of real knowledge. How do we do that? Why there's a need for having association like this, reaching out the Shastras with the help of a devotee, because it says Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnanena sattvadarshina. We have to reach out to this person who knows this knowledge. We have to serve, listen to him, take shelter of him. And then by his mercy, we get this knowledge. Similarly, we are taking the shelter. Why am I talking this? Why am I putting this topic at the start of the class? Is because we have to firstly, when we say Om Agyanati Mirandasya, we are actually begging for that mercy to whom? To our teacher. And now we come to know that we belong to Brahma Madhavacharya Gauriya Sampradaya. So there we see who is the immediate teacher now. The immediate teacher is Srila Prabhupada. So now from today onwards, we come to a conclusion that we have to pray to Srila Prabhupada. Because, see, it is said in the Shastras only, you cannot know him without knowing through his devotee. You can only know him through his devotee. When you know that the rule has been made, that the protocol has been made, like for example, now in order, like COVID is going crazy now, right? So now there is a set protocol. Even if you have to go to bank, there is a protocol. Please maintain safe distance, wear mask, use sanitizer. This is a protocol. If you want to enter bank, you cannot fight, say, no, I can enter the bank without doing that. No, they will not accept it, because that's the law. That's a set protocol. That's a set standards. Similarly, this is the set standards. That's why now we have to pray for his mercy, and you will come to know. So with this, we find the authority of Bhagavad Gita. So I hope, Manisha Mataji, it's clear, and I hope it's clear for everybody. Manisha Mataji, are you live? Are your doubts clear?
Actually, today she couldn't join because of network error.
Okay.
Maybe she's watching the recorded one.
Okay, no problem. But it was a point that was missed, and all glories to Manisha Mataji, for everybody came to know through her. So let's begin with our session today. So now, yesterday, problems were discussed, defects were said, the technique of acquisition has been done. Now, from today onwards, answers will be revealed to all of us. Who am I? So let's unreveal the slides. So the picture is saying, who am I? And the second line is saying, the science of soul. So there's a science of soul. The science is not just limited to the science in school, but there is also higher sciences that we can study. So now we see, I have a question for the audience here, and I will pick someone. Can Parvati Mataji say me what are the problems, irrespective of how much we are rich or old or poor or whatever the condition is, we have to face after getting a body or after getting birth here? What are the 4 problems that we have to face that we studied in the first session?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
That is death, birth, death, disease.
Yeah.
I forgot
Old age.
one.
Old age. Old age.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mataji. You remember 3. Please don't forget the one which is so certain, that is old age. Okay. So yes. So when we see the next question comes. So why to take birth? Why birth? Right? So for this, the answer is already cleared. We take birth, and not just birth. We go through 6 kind of transformation. The body goes through transformation or pain or fear that we are talking about. As we take birth, then what happens? Birth is also not easy. In order to get a body, in order to just get a human body, we know we have to go through 84 lakh kinds of living entities. And okay, finally, it's stated that, okay, now next body you'll get is human. Now you have to wait in queue. It's not easy to get a body of human too. And that also you have to wait for 9 months after it has been decided that, okay, you're going to get birth. And it is stated, like, for example, just imagine the 9 months of suffocation. In COVID situation now, everything is locked down, everything is closed. Now, again, if the government comes up with another take on restrictions on COVID, and if they say, please, from today onwards, nobody's supposed to go outside and close even the door and stay indoors, and nobody's supposed to talk to each other. We cannot even imagine there will be increase in the amount of mortality rate, which means people are just going to die committing suicides and committing so many things, but they will not be able to take the pressure or take the suffocation of staying in one place. It's impossible. Men cannot, but because they're social beings, so we cannot. And we have to stay for 9 months in mother's womb. Such a pain, such a pain. And after that also, we are given birth. When we are given birth also, then we have to go through a periodic change of the body, growth. Then we become old, we become dependent on so many people. And finally, the biggest exam, death. And in Shastras, it is said that when death appears and when we're about to leave the body, it's like 10,000 scorpions coming and eating us. Quite painful, really painful. So we have to go through all of this. So there is a very beautiful poem that William Shakespeare has written that we read when we were in school. I think most of us did. It's known as 7 Ages. It says, all the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances. And one man in his time plays many parts, his acts being 7 ages. So here, it's a very beautiful poem which talks about the different kind of ages. Once when a person gets a body, usually one has to go through. Sometimes young, very, very fast, very frivolous, very active, and then youth comes into being, then old age and death. But there's a very interesting realization that I had when I read this thing. And we even read the same kind of poetry in our mother language, Nepali, where it said that an old man is sharing his realization. He's saying the faces which were yesterday so fresh and so beautiful is now wrinkled. The hands which were so strong and was able to grasp many kgs of weight now is unable to even hold a pen. The wrinkles appear, but however, the heart doesn't feel this change. However, the inside doesn't feel the change. The inside feels as if like I'm still a child. There's a famous song known as Dil To Bacha Hai Ji. It sounds very funny, Dil To Bacha Hai Ji, and people are just commercializing the song, but actually has a very deep meaning to it. There is changes, 6 kind of changes that we're talking about. We have to go through old age, youth, everything. This has been said beautifully in a Shastras also, that dehinosmin yatha dehe kumaram yovanam jara tatha dehantar. So it has been said, dehinosmin, when we get a body, the body has to go through 6 transformational changes. So it has been said, but there is a very important statement there. However, we don't feel like, just like the old man in the poem is saying, he doesn't feel himself to be so old. Is it or not? Can anybody say yes or no to it? Like, for example, now you may be 30 years. Or if somebody, like usually when people ask me my age, I have a thought block, I have a pause, and I feel, I don't actually feel that I've become so old. What is that feeling? Though I'm old, biologically, I've become old. There is growth, right? I was a little child and now I've become an adult. But still, I don't feel like. Do people feel the same or do people have some different ideas? Malati, what do you feel?
Yes, Mataji, that happens.
Hare Krishna, Malati.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Malati.
Hare Krishna,
Okay,
Mataji.
maybe some. Okay, Renuka is saying, yes, I feel the same. Yes, indeed, we feel the same. So, what is that? What do you think? Why do we feel like that? Can anybody say? Can Ashmita say that why is that irrespective of a 70 years old man still feels that he's a child from inside? What do you think? What is that thing that is not changing and all the other things are changing? Can anybody enlighten us with their understanding? Am I audible?
Mataji, we only
Who's speaking?
morphologically we get old, but this is Punam Chetri.
Okay.
Hello,
Hello. Yes.
is my voice is audible?
Yes. Absolutely.
So we get old only from the morphologically, but anatomically, our soul and our heart doesn't change. So I guess that's the answer.
Oh
That's
wow,
why
that's
the
amazing.
70 years old, they still think that they are.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. So, yes, we have come to our main topic of concern. So, which means everything is changing, but there is something which is not changing. So, there's a very beautiful sloka to this, okay, in Bhagavad Gita. If we read chapter 2, text 20, it said, Na jayate mriyate va kadachin. So, if I hum it and say beautifully, so it said, Na just like we said, the 7 ages, all the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. Similarly, is saying that there is something that is taking, we take a body, right? So the soul, na jayate, which means the soul is not born, but as it takes a body, when we get a body, it takes birth. And soul does not die. Na jayate, na mriyate, vakadachin. Never does that, you know? And just because we have a body and the body goes through the 6 transformational changes that we talked about, we give birth, we stay 9 months in the womb, then we get birth, then we go through various growth. Physically, we go through a lot of growth, and then at the end, we die, we dwindle, and we go away. So that feeling inside that lets us believe that no, I feel the same, even after I've become 70 years old. That feeling is because of presence of the soul. So now the main question that we had begin talking about was, if we just go back to the first screen of the slide upwards. Yes, the question was, who am I? Who am I? Now, if I ask anybody who am I, now definitely they're gonna say, my name is so and so. I am from so and so. Right? We start defining ourselves with name. We start defining ourselves with which country we belong. We start defining ourselves with, the slides can be moved downwards. Like, for example, if you see in the coming slides, the answers are there. Either we say, I'm a male, I'm a female, I'm Indian, I'm American. Oh, I am a businessman by profession. No, I'm a player by profession. I belong to America. Now I belong to Japan. You know what? I'm Hindu. What's this? And if you go to the next slides downwards, we get to see, yes, it's saying whether I'm a female. So we have a definition of who am I. It's defined in with so many aspects. Let us see the aspects. Can the slides be put forward? Yes. Can the slides be put upwards? Yeah. No. Anitya Sharirik Upadhyaya. With the next slide. Okay, so see, we've been discussing about, we are actually defining ourselves in terms of gender, in terms of the kind of body that we have, in terms of where we belong from, in terms of what kind of job. But you see, there's a very important statement. ये सब कुछ बदल सकता है, like we said, right? Everything is changing, going through 6 transformation. But, however, the feeling is that I'm not changing. What's that feeling? There's a very interesting thing that's just going to come in the next page. Let's have a look at it. Let's have a look at the next PPT. It's really interesting. It's like an eye opener for all of us. If you see in this slides, there's a personality known as Dr. Harry Monson. Okay, and what he did, he is an amazing, interesting personality. He measured the worth of this so expensive human body. Into what? He came to a conclusion that we are nothing but calcium, phosphorus, potassium, sulfur, sodium, magnesium, iron, copper, iodine. Oh, equivalent to 5 pounds, 1.59666111 ounce is equals to a bag full of chemicals. The next slide. Amazing. That's not the end. The interesting part has not come to an end. The next slide shows us more interesting thing. That are we really just a bag full of chemicals? And you know the interesting part, the amount, the worth of this human body, if we go and buy in in scale of this chemicals that is available in our body, it's just equal to 410 rupees. It's, a pen is more worthwhile than our body. And you know what are we doing? Oh, the next slides gives us a nice understanding of what we are actually doing. Can the slides go to the slide of the cage and the lady? Cage and the lady. More. Cage and the lady. Yes, this is exactly what we are doing. It's just 410 rupees worthwhile body. And what we have done all our lives through is that we are studying, we're educating, increasing so much amount of money, bank balance, zero being added in bank balance for just this 410 rupees worthwhile body. Is it worth it? And you look at the pattern inside. Oh, just like I said, this analogy was explained in the first session also, that we're so much into external things that this lady was bought this parrot. Actually, she came with a desire to, make her parrot pet, make companion out of this parrot. But unfortunately, she forgot a mission. She started painting and making the cage so beautiful that she forgot to feed the parrot. The same with us, we're doing. Irrespective of knowing that the internal is supposed to be protected than the external, we are so much engrossed in external. Now, if we go back to the slides, Upar, if we go back to the slides again, now understanding of this, now we have come to a conclusion, who are we? We are not just body, but there is something inside which is not changing. Irrespective of the fact that from a young child, that young child becomes an old man, however, there is something which is not changing. So, if you read Bhagavad Gita 18.61, it gives a complete understanding. This page is a perfect one, which gives a complete understanding of this thing that is present inside, which does not change, which makes the old man in the Seven Ages poem to think that I don't feel myself old. I feel myself still young. So it is said in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, sloka number, athava quotation number 61, yantra rudani maye, which means that just like in the picture you see, there is a vehicle. Okay, so this verse simply says that this body is compared to the vehicle. Okay, and a vehicle, maybe it's Ford or maybe it's the most expensive vehicle across the globe. Until and unless there is a driver, it makes no sense. It has no value because it cannot even move an inch without the action of the driver. The same, like you see, if our body was just a bag of chemicals, like you see in the pictures above, just a bag of chemicals, a man, good looking man there, but he's so not moving. He's so not moving. Why is that? If we were just bag of chemicals, just a combination of calcium and sulfur and etc., you would move, right? But the moment a person dies, the moment a doctor says, sorry, we could not save, he has left. What has left? Why the body is not able to move? So that thing that is able to move is basically the soul. So we see here the man there is actually personified as the soul. And the car is personified as the body. And without the soul, the body has no value. Okay, we move forward. So we move to the slide. Yes, हम क्या केवल एक bag of chemicals ही है? If it is so, if you were just a bag of chemicals, then why would we go through all of this? That sometimes we're happy, sometimes we're sad, sometimes we're in anger, sometimes so many things are happening. Why all of this? What is making all of this action? Why are we so active? We should not be active because we're just bags of chemicals. So for this, there's still an answer. There's a very interesting slide. Next slide. So it is said, Albert Einstein, a great personality, said, what is pagalpan? What is insanity? What is madness? He said that if we actually do same activity day on and day after, and you know what we expect? We expect different result. That is madness. And trust me, that's what we are doing. What are we doing? We have read in the first day, because we know that once we get the body out of 84 lakhs of living species, and if we fail to realize the main occupation of being human, of having this highest level of consciousness, being highly intelligent, and if we by chance fail to do so, what's the problem? What's the fear? The fear is punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. Again and again, getting back another body, another 9 months in the womb, again and again. So we are actually trying to prevent that. And what are we doing? We want to go again and again and again and again. So Bhagavad Gita, why am I emphasizing this quote is that we, unlike many people, unlike millions of people now who are unaware of the science which can help them to cut the chain. Like for example, now most of the people are aware of the idea how to cut the chain of infection of COVID. But the COVID is so expert that he's making new chains. So that's a major problem. But here, unlike the COVID, here the chain is the same. Chain is what? A vicious cycle of birth, old age, disease, repeated birth, old age, and disease. And we are expecting that, by becoming IS officer, by becoming this, we would end up becoming happy. But no, we cannot get rid of the four kind of miseries and the four kind of miseries and the four kind of fears that is attached to the body. So what to do? Since we represent a class of intelligent people, here everybody's viveki, because this is the words of God. This is not my word. This is the word of God. God himself has said, Bahunam Janmananta, after so many lifetimes, after 84 lakhs and so many lifetimes, one out of so many people sits and can hear about me, can hear about the science. So we all are very intelligent and we all are very, very lucky. So just like we said in the first class, an intelligent person, when is amid so many problems, will not look for problem, will look for solution. So we go with the next slide. So we see that in the slides coming up, we see that we're nothing but we're machines. We walk, we sit, we remember, we reply. What? Do we not have, do we have soul? No, I don't think so, because I cannot see soul. If you go to the next slides, we'll see that there is a need for evidence. Like yesterday we studied, it's a well-known fact that we are actually students of science, right? We are students of this material education system. We are the products of this material education system, which is based on what? Based on praman, based on pratyaksha. Please, next slide. We are based on pratyaksha and anuman. But now we have taken a better position. Now we want to be students of sastrik, which is based on Shabda Praman, which is based on the words of the Lord. So that's why now let us see what are basically the Praman to see or to see the presence of soul in the body. So, okay, if I'm going fast, please let me know. I could actually slow down. So till now, we have come to a conclusion that there are 6 kinds of transformation. After 6 kinds of transformation, then we came to being that irrespective of the body going through all of this transformation, there is something which is not changing. That feeling of something not changing is not just a feeling, but there is something which is not changing. And by this time, we have to come to a conclusion that there is one active principle in the body, by which the body is making sense. The body is able to walk, the body is able to sleep, the body is able to talk, the body is able to do things. And that is known as soul. Now, how do we build an understanding of the soul? We have to build an understanding of the soul. So now we will build that understanding of the soul. Now, what is the symptoms of soul? Let us go and proceed with the slides. So now we are well versed. Now we are well versed yesterday that there are 3 modes of acquisition of knowledge. One is logic, right? Based on some kind of logical reasoning. Second is some kind of scientific evidences. And the third, since we are going to be students from Vedic background, we want to be sastris in coming days. So the third one is Shabda Praman. So now first let us discuss about tark or logic, some reasoning behind the presence of soul. Let us see what is that. So the next slide basically helps us to understand this logic. Next slide. So there's a very interesting analogy to understanding the presence of soul. So please ponder upon this question. The question is, everybody please ponder, think. The question is, sometimes in the sky, the sun is not available to our vision. We cannot see the sun. How do we confirm that it is day? The answer is on the screen, but still, you can comment and say to me, how do we confirm that it is daytime and that the sun is still there?
Because there's light.
Light.
Yes, absolutely. Because there is light. Light is representative of the presence of sun, right? It's not necessary. Sometimes it may be covered by cloud, but we still know because the lightness is there. Therefore, sun is still there. So by that we mean this is one technique or one logic by which we understand that the presence of soul is there. Now another thing Another picture you see, there's also another take of the logical reasoning behind the presence of soul. Okay, so here we have a picture of a poison. Now, how do we understand this is a poison? Do we need to drink poison to understand poison? What is your take, my dear friends?
Sign. Yes.
Yes, there is a danger sign there. So we understand that, oh, that need not be taken. That is toxic. So we don't take it, right? Similarly, this is the logical reasoning to it. Now, God, Lord Krishna has said that how can we, what is the key to seeing the soul? The key to seeing the soul is that we feel, we think, we experience. Out of 84 lakhs living entities, if we see from the right from the ants to the point of gigantic animals like elephants, everybody has some degree of consciousness, right? Some degree of consciousness, some degree of alertness. If someone comes, we beat, we sleep, we eat, we mate, we defend. Why is that? Because there's some active principle. Like Prahlad Maharaj said, in Kan, in everything, in every atom, right? And there are organizations which believe that no, such things don't exist in animals, that exist only in human. But that's their lack of knowledge, that's their imperfect knowledge. So what is the symptom of the soul? So here is the answer. The logic, basic logic is that the next slide will give us the answer. It's the consciousness. It's the consciousness. Consciousness is the symptom of the soul. Not necessarily do we have to see. Like, this can be understood very easily by taking an example. Like, when you're having pain in the body, and a doctor prescribes you a painkiller, like a small pill, a round pill, maybe a doses of 500 mg paracetamol has been given to you, and you take that paracetamol with you, and you swallow that paracetamol. That paracetamol is visible till your gut system, till your buccal cavity or your mouth. But the moment you swallow it and gulp it down, it's inside the GI tract. It's invisible. But that's not the end of the story. But after some times, you understand the vitality, the presence and the vitality of the medicine by some kind of sign. What is that sign? Relief of pain, right? Similarly, the spark, the spark that gives us the feeling that I'm not old, I'm young, dil to bacha hai ji, that I'm not young, I'm not old, is basically the principle of the material body. That gives us the viability to do action. Like you see everything in every, like for example, you see a dog and you show some kind of emotion. He reciprocates, the animal reciprocates. Why is that? Animal is not intelligent like us, but it has some degree of consciousness. Maybe not advanced as such, but has degree of consciousness. And that spark, basically, which is allowing that animal to reciprocate, is the presence of soul. Now, further we go. That was about basic logic. Now, there's a very interesting one in the next slide. If we were just bag of chemicals, then why would people go crazy when someone leaves the body? Because we are not just bag of chemicals. The spiritual spark inside creates some kind of bonding with each other. There is a bond among one to another because there's some kind of degree of awareness, consciousness. So basically, because of that, we're not just bag of chemicals. Now, with the next slide, we see very interesting thing. Next slide, we see in the next slide. There's a beautiful lady there. Like a man is in love with a lady, is in love with a lady. But then he's even ready to do so many things for that lady. But the moment that lady turns out to be immovable object, that love turns out into fear. Like this is the best example in COVID situation. I love my mother, I love my father, but oh, COVID positive father and mother and left the body. I will fear that body, not even go close to that body. This is the reality of life. So we actually, if we see, I love you, is a very big statement, right? We say, like, usually in today's society, of course, things are changing. We can also fall in love with same gender. But yes, as per the law of nature, we usually, this relationship has been reciprocated among opposite gender, right? So a male says, I love you, and a female says, I love you. This exchange of love is not based on body. If it was based on body, then just imagine. Now you see live telecast in every television, in every house, that the mother is dying and the mother and the child is crying, but so sad. This crying is just for some time. For example, if somebody leaves body in the house, we cry for how many days? Do we cry for whole lifetime? No, we don't cry for whole lifetime. We don't cry for whole lifetime. We don't even, they say, oh, I don't want to eat, someone has left the body. But I have personally seen when one of my beloved left the body, and when we were mourning for the death of some very beloved person, it was just a day, not even a day, some hours, and then done. Shedding of tears has been done. Everything has been done. It's gone. Something went off, and again back to normal. Even as per the rules, we were not supposed to eat the normal food, right? So we are in grief. But even a plain rice and ghee, we are able to eat. Life goes on. Why is that? It's not a simple thing. There is some kind of rationality behind it. It's because we were in love with that spiritual spark. It was not just body. It was not just a love between body. It was because of the spiritual spark we were loving. We were in love with the spiritual spark. And the moment that went off, it was just a bag full of chemicals. Nothing. And if you see in the picture, nothing. No experience, nothing, no moving, no emotions, no consciousness. So therefore, why would I love a bag full of chemicals? So which means love in its truest context, we're actually exchanging in terms of the spiritual spark that is existent. So we move on with, this was a logical frame of understanding the presence of soul, right? Now we go on with more another expression of the presence of soul is done by scientific method. First one was some logic was there. Second is some scientific method. Let's move on with the slides. Okay, so here we have a picture here. It's a very interesting depiction of understanding of the soul. Like you see, there is a milk, there is sesame seeds, there is sugarcane, and there are some woods. And in middle, there is a rose. And the statement is, Pushpe gandhatile tailam chakshagur payashigritam ashtivahi pashyati atma vivekat. So this gives a nice understanding of how the soul is. Like, for example, milk. Can we see ghee in milk? Can we see butter in milk? No, we cannot. Can we see oil in sesame seeds? No, we cannot. But does that mean, can we conclude that no, it's not seen, I cannot see, so therefore ghee is not produced? But ghee is the byproduct of milk. Oil is a byproduct of sesame. Similarly, we get juice or we get nectar from the sugarcane. Similarly, a flower, there is essence, fragrance. We don't see fragrance, but there is fragrance. So similarly, irrespective of the fact that we cannot see the soul, there is existence of the soul. And just like there are various departments, like in this next slides we see, there are various kind of departments. Some biology, some chemical, some mathematics. There are so many departments. Similarly, we also have a department of soul. We also have some equipment to basically see the soul. Can we have the next slides? Okay, here is a very important point that you're supposed to note down. How can we see the soul, which is invisible? But here it is saying that it can be seen. If it has said it can be seen, there has to be some way to see it. So here, just please note down the word hearing. You can just note down in your copy, hearing. And we move on with the slides. The next slide. Next to next slide. We can go next to next slide. And we go to the third class. the second take is Vaigyanik Praman, some scientific evidences which prove or which have proved, because we know science means it's always after the calamity. Like COVID was not predicted. After the calamity, the procedures have been made. Similarly, Vaigyanik Praman means after things have happened. So here we see a lot of things. Like if you see in the next slide, it is saying, "Kya mrityu ke baad जीवन hai?" So there are people who have actually experienced some uh, dying experiences, or मृत्यु का करीब से अनुभव, you know. So there are great personalities. Like in this next slides, we see like Dr. Michael Sabo. He did see some experiences, and I can give you one personality which I have read personally. Dr. Brian Weiss. You can even search. He's an American psychiatrist, and he's a hypnotherapist. So in his book, there are many books. There are more than 3 books that he has written, but the most common and the most famous one is Many Lives, Many Masters. So there, what he has done is that it's based on true facts. There is a he is a psychiatrist, so he does hypnosis, and there is a lady, a pathologist in his department, who asked for help because she had some very very psychological issues like sleeping issues, etc. So they do this procedure of hypnosis, basically a kind of a state of sleep where that is dominated by the speaker, and the speaker tries to the expert tries to grasp information from the past, which could be helpful in treating the present condition of the patient. So this lady goes through this progression or regression, we call it. Actually, this is a technique, life regression. So they did it, and they have made anecdotes, we can say some recordings, some reportings of what they had heard in this procedure. So they came to understanding that yes, when someone leaves the body, like if you see in the next slides, those anecdotes or those experiences have been enlisted in the next slides. मृत्यु का करीब से अनुभव, शरीर त्याग देने का अनुभव होता है. Like when we leave the body, we can actually feel the spark, the spiritual spark getting away from us. Those experiences have been made. So this are some of the scientific approaches to this presence of soul. And there are people, like in the coming slides, you can move the slides downwards. So we see there are personalities who have been given this very rare uh, opportunities of remembering their past life. And if anybody asks this question of how they are able to remember and how we are not able to remember, the answer to is because the Supreme Lord is very merciful, and whatever he wishes, he does. So by his will, they got the opportunity to remember their past life. And there are great personalities, even in the Shastras, who knew about their past life. So now our main focus is, these are all techniques. Now we have understood from logical point of view the presence of soul. Now we have understood from scientific point of view. Now, since we are assuming the position of students from Shastras, so let us try to understand, view, or let us try to build the vision or the chakshu to see the soul from Shastra point of view. So how do we see the soul from Shastra point of view? I can explain this. There's a very nice explanation to this, a very beautiful explanation I recently read from a teacher in our chain. So this teacher gave a very nice explanation which will help us to understand the development of the vision to see the soul. So how it is like a student from a chemistry class goes to a chemistry lab, and he was very thirsty. He was very thirsty, and he sees a glass of liquid, and nearby he sees some 2 pieces of lemon, the squeezed lemon. So he thinks that's a lemon water, and he is about to drink the lemon water. But suddenly the teacher approaches. The teacher comes into the class, and the teacher says, "Hey, what are you doing? Hey, what are you doing?" Then the student says, "I'm very thirsty." And the teacher says that, "Hey, don't do that, don't drink that." Say, "No, I'm really thirsty, it's lemonade, why are you not allowing me to drink?" The teacher says, "No, it's not lemonade, it's hydrochloric acid, don't drink it." Then what happens, the student is saved by the teacher. How is he saved by the teacher? Is that he actually did not drink. He actually did the process of hearing from the teacher, and he saved himself. And he developed the vision to see the hydrochloric acid without having to see or without having to taste it. Similarly, from Sastric point of view, we can develop the chakshu by hearing. If we hear from the right authority, we can actually develop the vision to see. Similarly, we see in Bhagavad Gita 2.13, it is clearly mentioned. We just have to hear from great devotees like Srila Prabhupada in the form of Bhagavad Gita, from the great book of wisdom, where the Lord Himself has said, Dehinosmin yatha dehe komaram yoganam jada, yatha dehantar prapte dhirastattanamulya. What is the literal meaning of this statement is that the body goes through, whenever the spiritual spark gets the body, has to go through transformation. What is that? Kumaram means youth. He gets young. A baby grows into a young being. Then from young, he becomes little adulthood. Then yovanam. Then he becomes old and he dies. And the person, very important line, the second line, and the person who knows the science is a dhira because he knows it. This is the science, this is the law of nature and will not be bewildered. So unlike the sciences which is going on such a painful amount of hypnosis to come to a conclusion that actually the spiritual spark exists, actually there are many life forms and life, there is reincarnation, incarnation. We don't have to go through that. We simply hear and we will develop vision. So if you see in the second slide now, coming slide, Pratyaksha Anubhav, like when we go down, it's a very personal thing. I don't think anybody has to justify and come out to a better understanding of it. Like from a small child, from lower KG to a point where we do a BSc to MD to PhD, we are going through a change. We are going through a transformation. Javani, Bachpan, Budapa. That exactly is the sloka that we are talking about. And now we see, now we have come to a conclusion that the soul exists. Now we have come to a understanding also that we cannot see, but we can accept the hearing from the Shastras. But that's not the end. The Shastras also gives us evidences, praman, of many physical parameters of the soul. Not just metaphysical, which we cannot see, but the physical parameters also. Just like we are clear. What do we mean by sharir badalta hai, vyakti wahi rehta hai, which means that we go through changes of the body, but the soul remains. So we have found, please everybody write a topic, nature of the soul. Now we have come to a conclusion. One nature of the soul is that the soul is eternal. The soul is what? Eternal. Unlike the body, which is very young, like a baby, beautiful, one day dwindles, becomes old and ends, finish, goes back to where it belongs. However, the soul or the spiritual spark does not go through this change. And in the next slide, we see some more great personalities like Silk Road and Greater Carl Jung. They have actually given their take over how the spiritual spark is the cause of our existence. Like Carl Jung has said, मुझे विश्वास है मानव का कुछ अंश जिसे आत्मा कहते हैं वह इस भौतिक जगत देश काल और प्रभाव से परे है, which means it is eternal. So even these people, these great scientists also have come to a conclusion about it, and the Shastras clearly say that it is very much eternal. Now we will further see the nature, the real nature of the soul. So what is it? Like we say, it is eternal, but how to prove? Right. So it's clearly said in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, sloka number 17, Avinashi tu tatviti, yena sarvam idam tatam vinasham abhyasasya natushit kartum arhati, which means that which pervades the entire body. The reason why the whole entire body is in action, we should know that it is indestructible. Nobody is able to destruct this eternal, imperishable soul. So now we understand the eternal nature of the soul. Very important point. And now there's a very interesting part that we have to understand. Next slide, where we will talk about next slide. So till now, our topics have been discussing. Now we know that behind the body, the success of the body or the action of the body is enruled by spirit, soul. Now we see very interesting aspect. We said that there are 6 kind of transformation that the body goes through, right? So the body is young, and the body becomes more yovan. The youth comes, and then it becomes old. It dwindles, and it goes back. Where it goes back, right? Where it goes back. So we have heard many people, we belong to the mitti and we go back to the mitti. So we have to understand that we have been created like that. So how are we created is that because we know that the creator is God himself, right? And God created us, and God created us with his energy. Okay. So there are 2 kinds of energy. You may just note down that God has just 2 kind of energy. For today, it's just 2 kind of energy. Like we say, at the end, the body dwindles, right? The body dies. The body goes back to something. It goes back to this 5 elements. There we see Apara Prakriti and Para Prakriti. So about this, we'll be talking in depth tomorrow. But right now, we just want to say that since we belong to all these elements like Bhumi, Jal, Vayu, Agni, Akash, and the body dwindles back to it. But what does not dwindle or what does not get away from us is this Man, Buddhi, Ahankar, and Sat Chit Anandva. These 3 things we have to keep in suspense today because we will be talking in depth about this tomorrow. But by this time, you have to see that we go back to where we belong. Bhumi, Jal, Vayu, Agni, Akash. Till that point should be clear. And the next slides, we see the example, very simple example of what soul is. What is soul? What is the nature of the soul? Again, next slide. Yes, in this picture, it's clearly mentioned. We can just see that the soul, what is it? The soul is the inner thing, and the body is basically garment. Like today we wear a white t-shirt, tomorrow we wear a black t-shirt. But do we tag ourselves with t-shirt? Do I say I'm a red t-shirt, I'm a black t-shirt? No. We're not bothered even the t-shirt gets worn out. It will be sad. It was my favorite t-shirt, but we'll get another one tomorrow and throw away the old. Similarly, the Sastras clearly say that Vasamshi Jirnani Yatha Vyaye Navani Grinati Naroparani Tatha Sharirane Vihaya Jirnani Anyayi Sampyati Navani Dehi. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material garments, giving up the old and useless one. So why do we lament? Why do we feel sad for the garment? Do we feel sad for the garment? Whole life we cry, oh, the cloth went off. No, we don't. We just buy a new one. Similarly, we have to understand that this is the nature. The soul is eternal. Now, there's more point to understand how soul is eternal. Now we have understood it. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin. The next slide talks about the sloka that I did talk right now, Bhagavad-Gita 2.22. Now, next slide, there's an interesting story. Let me say, Srila Prabhupada shares this story. Our founder Acharya, our teacher, said this story to all of us. It's about, the story is entitled Liquid Beauty. Okay, the story is entitled Liquid Beauty. How we can understand that actually we don't fall in love with the body, but we're falling in love with the spiritual spark. And the moment the spiritual spark is gone, that body is just a bag of chemicals. There was a very saintly lady, and this saintly lady was really beautiful. She was young and she was saintly, and she had the wisdom of Bhagavad-Gita. She had the wisdom of Shastras. And there was a man, and this young man fell in love with a young woman. It was very natural. And this young man wanted to marry this woman. But the woman knew that she was chosen by this man because of this external beauty, external body, which is made out of many elements. We will be talking about how many elements we are made of in future sessions. But today, many material elements. So she said to the approach made by this man about marriage to her, she said to him, okay, you come after 1 week and then we will marry. Then the man day and night dreamed about this woman, day and night dreamed about and started planning about marriage. And on the seventh day, he went again to the house of this beautiful lady, to the dream girl of his life, and knocked the door and ring the bell and opened the door. There was a very skinny and really not so beautiful lady opening the door. So the man said, man is not concerned about it because man is not interested in that lady. The man said, may I know where is the beautiful lady that I had a talk 1 week ago and she said me to come today. So could you just call her? The lady replied smilingly that that lady is me. And the man was surprised to a point that he fell down on grounds and said, no, you're not the one. No, you're not the one. But then the lady said, okay, fine. You're correct. I'm not the one. I'll get you the beautiful lady. And then she went inside, and instead of bringing a lady, she bought some pots. She bought some pipe pots there. And she started explaining that this is a lady that you fell in love with. You now take this lady and fall and get married with these things. The man said, what's happening? What are you saying? What are you saying? And the lady said, my beauty was based on all of these things. So you go and marry with this beauty. Now I'm no more. I'm that same lady whom you liked and loved, but now you're not ready to accept me. You're actually looking for the extrinsic beauty. Sharir ka saundarya keval skin tak. It's only external. And just like I said, a man never falls in love with a dead body because we fall in love with the spiritual spark. It's not the dead body. And what are we doing in this time is that we are making all the plans, studying, higher education, so big things for this extrinsic beauty, which is temporary. While there is a big science with everything quoted, understood, detailed understanding of it, the science of soul, which we fail to study. But we are, unlike the others, we're very fortunate to have this opportunity to study the science of self. Because the key to happiness begins with knowing who am I. Until and unless we don't know who am I, there is no point going for other answers. First, we have to know who we are. Because if we see the hierarchy, that we studied in the first day, Maslow hierarchy, from the physiological needs to the upper needs also, to the upper needs. Until and unless we don't meet the basic needs, we cannot go to the upper needs, right? Similarly, until and unless we don't know who we are, until and unless we don't know what our nature is, how can we know the nature of the Supreme? How can we know time? How can we know our activities? What are we supposed to do? How can we know our goal? So that's why knowing ourselves is really very important. Now, next slide is really interesting. Like that's going to be a really interesting slide because unlike the science, which is limited because it's made and discovered by a limited human being, the Shastras are very much complete. Now, it is not just saying the presence of soul, not just giving us an understanding that the spiritual spark is present, it is also saying that it also has a size. It's really surprising. The first time I ever read, it was very surprising. And it's saying it also has a size. Now, the Upanishads also says, like the Shvetaswara Upanishad 5.9 also confirms, and there are many more sastras which actually gives us the understanding of size of the soul. The soul is so small. It can be understood with a nice example, like the mobile phone. The mobile here pertains to the body. The SIM card pertains to the spiritual spark. We understand the SIM is really small, right? Small in size. Now we have to understand the size of the soul. Just take one hair. It is said, Balagra sata bhagasya satada kapitasya cha bhago jiva savigneya sachanadaya kalpate. Just imagine when the upper part of a hair, when we break a hair, the upper part of the hair is divided into 100 parts and again 100 parts, which means 10,000 part. That is basically the dimension of the spirit soul. That much small is the size of the soul. The Shastras is complete because it does not just give you some praman, some vague knowledge. No, it is in detail. Detailedly, it is explained that there is a size of the soul as well. Next, we have to not just the size. Now, not just the size. Next slide will also give us an explanation of the same thing. If you move on to the next slide. Yeah, the same. The quotation that I just quoted right now about the size of the soul has been presented in the slide. So next to next slide, we see that now a big question comes, right? So do we only have soul, or do others also have soul? But unlike those people in the world who think that only human beings have soul, and they think by eating someone, by eating the flesh of animals, they are freed from the sinful reaction. No, no, no. From today onwards, if anybody asks you this question, you can clearly quote this thing and say, what does the Shastra say that? Anur aniyam mahato mahiyam, which means from the smallest of the smallest animal like ant to the biggest gigantic animals like elephant, they have this spiritual spark known as soul. And because they have the spiritual spark known as soul, therefore, we are condemned to act wrongly to them. We are supposed to respect them. So we see the presence of soul in almost all the living entities. So there are certain organizations and certain believers that it's okay to destroy, it's okay to disrespect animals. No, it's not okay to disrespect animals, because just like we have our child, these animals also have a child and we must respect it. And we see the presence of spiritual soul not only in human beings, but in also all the living forms, because consciousness is a symptom of soul. Now in the next slide, we see Na jayate mriyate va kadachit. Very beautiful picture explaining us the nature of soul. That neither does it get born, neither does it die. It's just because it takes a body, it looks like it has taken birth. And just like it dies, it looks like it is dying. But no, it is not. And a person, and it can never be cut into pieces. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Even after the body goes, the soul still remains. Soul still remains. About this, we will also be talking in depth further. The next slide is adding more convincing power for us, more evidences. It is not just saying that the size of the soul is 1 to the power 1 10,000 times of the upper portion of the hair. Now this slide, the next slide, is saying about how indestructible the soul is. Nayanam, it is saying this sloka is clearly saying that Nayanam chindati sashtrani, Nayanam dahati pavaka, Naichanyam klit antyoko, na soyati margaha, which means the soul can never be cut into pieces by any weapon, cannot be burned by some fire, cannot be moistened by water, nor can be taken away, withered by wind. So which means the nature of soul is eternal, indestructible, invisible, but visible. With the chakshu of Shastra, it is very much visible. So this is the conclusion that we have come to, the nature of the soul. Now we have the biggest climax of our talk today. Not just the Shastras tell us about that the soul's existence is there. Not just it tells us about the size of the soul. Not just it tells about the presence of the soul, but it also tells about where exactly the soul is located in the body. Just like a mobile phone, we know the exact location where the SIM is supposed to be inserted. Similarly, in our body, there's the exact location where the soul is basically located. So to understand this, let's try to understand heart. Okay, since the heart has come, in the next picture, we can see in the next slide. Yes. So the topic is very interesting. Atma rehti kahan hai? And you see, there's some hint that is given to the location, and that's heart. So the answer is actually the soul is present in our heart. Where in the heart? Now another question. So to understand that, we have to understand one thing. Let us try to be a medical student. Let's try to understand physiology of heart. Srila Prabhupada, our founder Acharya, has written about the physiology of heart in purport to this sloka of location of heart. Now, how does the heart or the pumping organ work? Like in the first few slides, we said that we have mouth to eat, we have eyes to see, we have a heart to pump, right? So heart is known as a pumping organ. Pumping means, what does it pump? It pumps blood. We have to understand, in the physiological chart or the hierarchy of Maslow, in the first day, we studied about one physiological needs. What is that? Air. If we don't breathe, we are dead. If we don't breathe, we are dead. Similarly, for the record, if our brain cells is devoid of oxygen for about more than some seconds or radiculated time, it ends up there is brain death. When someone dies of brain, that's an irreversible change. We should always remember that the whole body is composed of various organ systems, right? And some organs are known as vital organs. Out of all the organs, heart and brain, both of them, most importantly, heart is the most vital organ. Why most vital organ? Srila Prabhupada, our teacher, quotes there that even if the so-called medical specialists, they don't accept the presence of soul, but at the same time they don't deny as well, because they quote heart to be the most important organ of the body. Why? Very nice understanding has been given. For that, let us try to understand the mechanism by which the heart pumps blood. Usually what happens, because the body is in continuous demand of oxygen. Without oxygen, we cannot survive. So basically, when the oxygen goes to the different parts of the body, the oxygen is consumed. Like when we eat, we finish eating, the plates are empty. Similarly, the tube which is giving oxygenated blood to different organs, when the oxygen is consumed, becomes deoxygenated without oxygen. And again, this deoxygenated, which is called as impure blood, comes from upper part of the body and to the lower part of the body through veins and arteries, right? So it enters the heart. And in the heart is a pumping machine. What does it do? It pumps, tries to pump oxygen and gives oxygen to the body. So there is red blood cells, which is known as corpuscles. The corpuscles give that. Now, the corpuscles does that. But Prabhupada gives a very nice understanding to it. The corpuscles, where does it get energy from? Now, to understand this, another example we can cite. A wrestler is really fighting with someone. The wrestler is putting all his energy, everything, and fighting out. This energy, where does it get from? Do you see the energy visibly? Can you see the energy visibly? No. But the wrestler is fighting. Where does he get this energy from? He gets this energy from the food that he eats. When the food that he eats, does the energy is available? Can you see the energy in apple? No, you cannot, but you can perceive it, you can anubhav, you can feel it, right? With your actions. Similarly, the corpuscles are acting, the corpuscles are helping in producing oxygen. But the energy of the corpuscle is given by whom? What is the source of this energy? Prabhupada clearly says the source of this energy is the spiritual spark, the soul, which is located in our heart. So that is the location of the spirit soul. And in the coming sessions, we'll be talking about how in this heart the spirit soul exists. Not just the spirit soul. Along with the SIM card in a phone, there is a memory chip or a memory card. That memory chip does not do anything. It's ready to accept all kind of memory, is ready to acquaint all kinds of memory. You can put songs, you can put bhajans, you can put anything as per that you wish. Will not what? Will not kick you or will not kill you or will not obstruct you in collecting those memories. That memory card is the super soul. There is one soul and there is super soul. The soul is us. Now we know that we are eternal. That all our activities, the ability to walk, the ability to talk, the ability to see, the ability to hear is because of one particular screwdriver inside. And that is what? The spiritual spark. And along with the spiritual spark, or along with the SIM card in a phone, we also have the facility of a very important thing, memory card. And this memory card, which does not reject our choice of song or our choice of document to be inserted and saved in that memory card, is actually another soul, and that is Lord himself. Like Father questioned, does your God exist everywhere or your God only exists in the temple? Then he said, no, my God exists in the temple. My God also exists in each and every atom. So we are also atoms. So inside our heart also, along with the soul, that is us, there is also one more thing, that is super soul. And that is the Lord in the form of Paramatma. And who this Lord is, why does he exist there? What is the nature of this Lord? Who are we has been understood. What is Lord? Not understood. What is the relation between me and Lord? Yet to be understood. So with this, today we close the case here saying that who are we? Who am I? this question has come to an end. Now we know that yes, we are body, but really, factually, we are spirit, soul, and we have a body. And that is what we have come to a conclusion. And if you see the last picture there, last page, there is a complete conclusion or a summary of what we have studied. There is Atma and there is Sharir. There is two different things. Atma is eternal, does not have to go through the 6 transformation that the body in which the Atma goes in has to go through, right? It has to go through 6 kind of transformation. And on the other hand, this particular soul is spiritual and is the cause of our all action. So now we can define ourselves. We are not just American, we are not just Shweta, we are not just Indian, we are not just fat, we are not just black or white or rich or businessman, but along with this, in real perspective, we are spirit soul who has a body. And with this, we come to the end of the first question. Who am I? Now we have an answer. So can anybody say, who are we?
Soul.
Maybe, but there could be a loud voice because as it is, we come to understand that we are indestructible. So we can speak loudly and say who we are.
Soul, spirit soul.
Thank you so much. So if we have any kind of questions or doubts, you all are free to ask, write to us. And even if you don't know, we have great cadre teachers who can help us out to clarify our doubts. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna, for being so cooperative all through the session.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Thank you so much. सबैजनालाई धेरै धेरै थ्याङ्क यू, धेरै धेरै धन्यवाद यसरी धेरै बनाएर सुनिदिनको लागि। आजको हाम्रो सेसन हामी को हो जो जान्नु बहुत जरुरी छ भगवत गीता पढ्ने अगाडि, किनभने हामी को हो त्यो नजानेपछि हामी भगवत गीतालाई बुझ्नु साह्रो पर्छ। त श्वेता माताजी हजुरलाई धेरै धेरै धन्यवाद। Thank you so much for this enlightening class. You explain it so nicely and so clearly. Essence of Bhagavad Gita हामीले हालिसक्यो। हजुर गएर you can just participate. अरु if हजुरको कसै कुनै पनि पार्टिसिपेन्टको नम्बर अगर छैन भने, ग्रुपमा हजुर हुनुहुन्न भने, प्लिज च्याट बक्समा आफ्नो नाम र फोन नम्बर हामीलाई हालिदिनुस् ताकि हामी हजुरलाई एसेन्स अफ भगवत गीता व्हाट्सएप ग्रुपमा एड गराइदिउँ। सो भोलि पनि हाम्रो 11 बजेबाट सेसन हुन्छ, समयमा आइदिनु होला। आज अलि लेट आउनुभयो कोही जना बिकज अफ नेटवर्क इस्यु, केही बात छैन, तर भोलि समयमा आइदिनु होला। र सबैजनालाई धेरै धेरै धन्यवाद। अरु क्विजमा जरुर पार्टिसिपेट गर्नु होला। केही प्रश्न छ भने, कुनै पनि प्रकारको क्वेशन छ आजको यो सेसनको बाट लिएर त ग्रुपमा सोध्न सक्नुहुन्छ, विदाउट एनी केही झिझक नमान्नु सोध्न सक्नुहुन्छ। हामी हजुरलाई हेल्प गर्नको लागि छौं। सो धेरै धेरै धन्यवाद।